and they dropped me after that, and I did struggle for a while. I'll be honest, you know, I kind of fell out of love with the game, and people say about purple patches, and I guess I did have a purple patch, but you know, nowadays you have to practice, and if you don't, you get found out.
Welcome along to the latest edition of the Tungsten Talk here at the MODUS Super Series, where we delve into the life and times of professional darts players. And today, we're going to be delving into the life and times of the former World Youth Champion, James Hubbard. James, great to have you here in the studio. You and Nico, you go back a fair bit, don't you two?
Long time, yeah. We shared on tour for 3 or 4 years, so yeah, we know each other very well.
What was James like as a roommate?
I once categorised him as my best roommate and my worst roommate at the same time. But I mean that in the greatest of compliments, because James and I spent a lot of nights together when we'd had disappointing days or great days, and we would always talk about things in great detail. So having him as a roommate was a brilliant thing.
I'm sure we'll get to the stories by the time that we're done. But it's been quite the career for you, Jay. It's been quite the life story, actually, really, hasn't it? Let's go back right to the start and where it all began. When you first picked up a dart, where it first began for you?
Well, I mean, it was more my dad. So my dad played for England. I'm not sure when he was picked, maybe 83, 84. And he was very young then. So and then he played the World Championship sort of 86. So I picked up a dart, maybe, I'm not too sure, maybe 8, 9 years old. I think we used to throw a tree outside the house. So, and then eventually moved on to, you know, the steel tip boards and stuff, and, you know, all went okay after that.
Darts was something that was always in your blood, but at what point did you actually think, when you were throwing darts at trees, then throwing at a steel tip board, you thought, actually, I've got the hang of this a little bit?
I was young because I played in, not England Youth, Norfolk Youth very young. So I think I was like maybe 10, 11 years old. So don't get me wrong, I wasn't the best player then, but I know I had something, you know. So, you know, I'm not sure. I started to hit sort of like 180s around sort of 12, 13. So I think you start to realise then, and beating your friends and beating your fellow Norfolk Youth players and stuff. So yeah, that was around then.
And I suppose the chain of progression would be quite natural for somebody around your age around that time. Was you play county youth, you do well there, and then it's just taking those small steps up from that point onwards? Yeah,
it literally went from county youth to then being picked for county seniors. I think I was either 12 or 13 when I was picked, and Norfolk had to ring up Ollie Croft to try and get like sort of permission for me to play. Because I'm sure there was a rule back then where you couldn't play at a certain time. I think Jamie Lewis and Keegan Brown maybe played around that time. So I was similar to them, and they did let me play. And I lost for 27 average actually the first game, bust 56 twice, hit treble 20 twice. So I'll never do that again, hopefully.
And it's interesting that James mentions that, because actually you look at the time frame that James came through, some of the opportunities at that time, everybody thought, wow, players have never had opportunities, young players have never had opportunities like it. He came through at a time where the youth tour was being set up, other projects are being set up, kind of the hallmark of the first time we kind of saw youth darts really taken seriously within the game.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Taken seriously they're very serious words. But not every county had a youth team. Some counties didn't have the budget for it for whatever reason. And Norfolk have done a very good job of nurturing talent over the years, and particularly counties in the south. You mentioned Jamie Lewis, Keegan Brown and James Hubbard. They've got something in common. They're in the southern half of the country or in the southern part of Wales, where darts is a religion. So for me, when I was coming through, I was about 11 or 12 when I was starting to get pretty good, but there was nothing. And that was a little bit further back because I'm a little bit older than James. But it was encouraging to see a county like Norfolk give him an opportunity to thrive, so that when he was 16, 17, 18 years of age, he was even better.
What were those development years like when you, as Nico said, 16, 17, 18, because you were improving all the time? Were you then getting to the stage where actually I can maybe cut this out full time? Yeah,
I mean, you know, I progressed from Norfolk Youth to then Norfolk Seniors, and then eventually I was picked for England Youth. I did okay at England Youth I lost all my games on stage, which was the problem. Like it was, you know, the finals day or whatever you would call it. I can't remember quite what it was, but it was a Europe Cup. I think it was 2008 in Wales. And they dropped me after that. And I did struggle for a while, I'll be honest. You know, I kind of fell out of love with the game and I couldn't even get into my Super League side, you know. And literally just my dad just said, you know, maybe go to a different side away from my local team. And it really worked out, you know. I just started to enjoy it. I met a girl at the time. We went up north and that was really where I started to learn my darts in sort of, you know, Paul's territory of the country. So, you know, in the northeast.
Let's skip it forward a little bit then. A couple of years, you begin to play in the PDC. You begin to play on the PDC Youth Tour, as it was called back then. And it felt like success was something that was just beginning to come a little bit more quickly for you. Yeah,
I mean, I think I played a couple of youth tours before I kind of did anything, if you know what I mean. I think I lost to Co Stompy's son in one. You know, it was a big thing, you know, going there. And my uncle took me, and as he would with my dad and stuff. And as soon as I just sort of got on the youth tour, I just felt at home, you know. It's a great tour, you know. Let's be honest, you know, they've produced some amazing players, and you know, I was lucky to do well on there, really.
You say it clicked straight away. What do you think about it was the reason why you just fell to it like duck to water?
I'm not sure, really. Well, the reason I qualified for the World Youth was I was in bed, to be fair, right? And there was a Riley's qualifier in Norwich for the World Youth Championships, and kind of my dad just woke me up and said, James, you need to go. You know, this is silly. So I went, and I missed 2 9-darters that day as well, double 12, and got through, and you know, obviously went on to win the World Youth. But that is genuinely the story. You know, I qualified for a Riley's tournament in Norwich, which I wasn't going to go to. Went to then, I think it was Crawley, and qualified. So, you know, mad.
That Riley's in Norwich has got a lot to answer for. Because James got through there, Rob Cross got through there en route to his first UK Open. So that place has done some incredible things. But James is right. It was Crawley. That's where I met him. But I knew of him before I'd actually seen him play. And I remember Crawley like it was yesterday, because I had great success there myself. And I went to watch the early stages of the World Youth Championship. It was the back end of 2011, because that was when they had the preliminary rounds about 6 months before the final, when it was played. It was at the O2, the year that James won it. But people had warned me that he was pretty good, so I had my eagle eye on him, and I looked at the way he was playing, and I thought, wow, he can play. I was impressed from the off.
Wasn't that the same Riley's Norwich, where Rob Cross had a similar situation where he thought, actually, I'm not going to turn up to that qualifier?
That's the exact one, yeah.
And then in terms of yourself, as Nico says, you qualify for the World Youth initially in Crawley for the opening stages. Firstly, what was the qualification like? We'll talk about the O2 in a second, but what was the qualifying day like for you?
I just went there really confident. I mean, I was going there anyway for the Grand Slam qualifiers. I think back then you could qualify as, you know, a novice.
It was an open qualifier,
I think
wasn't
it was, yeah. So I was going there for that, and then I was then playing the World Youth as well. And I just felt great, you know. I really did, and I was a bit poor early, but kind of got away with it first 2 rounds, and then I just, you know, I was superb after that, really, and my dad would always say to me, you know, I don't think he's seen me play better than that. But don't be wrong, you know, I was lucky. I think Jamie Lewis missed a dart to beat me, and I think Dirk van Dijvenbode missed a dart to beat me. So, you know, you've got to ride your luck. But I do always remember 4-all against Jamie Lewis. So I had an 11 darter, you know. So, you know, it's just about getting through the games, you know. But, you know, fortunate.
Do you go into a day like that with ideas of grandeur, or do you just take it one game as it comes?
I think at the time I was just taking it one game as it comes. You know, I didn't expect anything. I knew I was playing well, though. You know, I was averaging 30 at Super League. I was averaging around 31, I think, at County at the time. So I knew I was playing well, but it's a different breed there. You know, you had Van Gogh in there, Michael Smith, Joe Cullen, you know, all these great players that have obviously pushed on. But I didn't fear them, though. You know, I was only 19 as well, so I think at that age you don't fear anyone. You just get your head down and play.
You said that you heard good things about James prior to Crawley. What was the word on the street about him?
That he was really focused, that he was quiet, and he was dangerous. And what I saw from the games that he was playing in Crawley at the K2 that day was that he was walking around looking like a mini Neil Morrissey, sorry James, with a somewhat Oasis-style hairdo, with no dart shirt, just black trousers, dark coloured top, and he was just head down and beat people, and I was impressed by that. And I just had to go and talk to him, and I needed to know what he was all about. And by the end of that day, we knew exactly who he was.
Right, let's talk about the big day then. The O2, the World Youth Final. Before we talk about the game itself, I want to talk about the build-up. As Nico said, there was a long time to wait between playing the qualifying day and then actually playing the final. What was the build-up like to that?
It was tough because obviously I think I qualified like the November, October, then played the Grand Slam. And my first TV game was Phil Taylor, so that, never easy. And then kind of after that, you get used to the tour. So it's kind of in your back of your mind, though, really. I mean, there was such a long wait that you just tried to get your head down on the tour. And I was lucky, actually. I started to play really well on the tour after sort of, a good 6 weeks. It took me a little while to get started. But then I qualified for the UK Open, and I was seeded there. And went into the World Youth in the May, and I was really confident. Van Gerwen, I think, won a couple of events before it, or the event before the World Youth. But I fancied my chances.
So you're actually in that weird place where you're looking forward to this youth final, but actually in and around it, your senior career is really beginning to blossom.
100%, yeah. I felt like I was starting to really make something of myself, and. My average is, back then they didn't have Dart Connect, but you had a laptop of it every now and then behind the board. And, I had a couple of really high averages. I remember I had 111 against Jamie Caven in Crawley, and I just felt like everything was clicking. So, like I said before, I walked into the O2, and I remember saying to my dad, I was trying to show him the stage because I wasn't fearful of it at all. I was really, really confident.
When you walk through the doors of the O2, what is it like? Because I've spoken to people who played at Premier League finals night, and they talk about that hall in the auditorium where you've got all the acts that have played there, and you're talking about some of the most iconic people ever. The likes of Rihanna and Beyonce and the Rolling Stones have all played there in the past. What was it like walking through that particular hall as you make your way onto the stage?
Yeah, it was amazing. I go to a lot of gigs myself. So me and my dad, my uncle, my girlfriend as well, we go to sort of like rock gigs mainly, really. And so to walk through and see the likes of the rock sort of, for me, on the wall was incredible. But like I said, I was just majorly focused. And I always remember walking through and seeing Sid Waddell, bless him, and he just kind of winked at me. And I don't know whether it was like a wink of, good luck or, you've got this, or I'm not sure, but I had the same thing on the way back, so I assume it was not a bad thing.
We never really knew what Sid was thinking. No. It's as simple as that. But what I can say from my point of view, at that time, I was actually rooming with James, so I got to know him really well. But we were hanging around some pretty influential dart players at the time, Mark Webster and all of the people in the MODUS camp. So Robert Thornton, Simon Whitlock, a lot of great players. But the crack was, I don't know if James knew this, but we all thought he was going to win because we knew he was playing well. And if you looked at the stats at the time that we had and the form that we had at the time, James was playing better than Michael van Gerwen. Now, if you think about what happened in 2012, James won the World Youth. Michael van Gerwen would go on to win the World Grand Prix just a few months later, but at that time, just before the O2, he was playing better. And we weren't surprised to see him play so well on the stage.
Let's talk about the final itself then, and your experiences in your own words from that particular match.
I was just, like I said, laser focused. I genuinely felt like I was going to win. I said to my friend, a mate of mine, Mark, I kind of rang him the night before and said I had this random dream that I'd win 6-3. And, I haven't told many people that, but it did happen. I did win 6-3, but I honestly, you know, people will think it's ridiculous that I thought I'd beat Van Gogh. I think I was, you know, I don't know what the odds were. It must have been ridiculous probably for me to win, but I just felt at home, like I was playing great on the tour. You know, I just had a quarter-final on the UK Open, lost to Justin Pipe in Birmingham, I think it was. You know, felt great. And like I said, I had Paul and I think people forget, like Mark Webster sponsored me then. You know, so he was the first person to, at the time, and I think it was Vincent van der Voort sponsored Van Gogh, wasn't it? Yeah. So, you know, I was just confident, and it sounds arrogant, but I honestly thought I would win.
What's it like when the trophy gets hoisted in the air and you finally receive it?
You know, amazing. It really was amazing to have all my family there and stuff. And I watch it back every now and then, I'll be honest, you know, and see my mum crying and my sister crying. And my dad kind of like wandered off somewhere, so I never sort of saw what he was doing. But, you know, Paul knows my dad well, and I think he likes his own kind of space to watch it. So, but it was a great thing.
Come on, tell us about the final checkout. We know the story, but maybe a lot of people don't.
Yeah, so basically I still kind of do it now. I count in my mind, in my head. So I thought I was on 201, and I was actually on 181. So I went treble 20, no, sorry, I was on 180, wasn't I? 180, so I went treble 20, and went for treble 19, thinking I was on 201. So I almost left 3. So I hit 19, left 41, and then went out. So, you know, I was lucky, really.
And that opened up so many doors. 2012 was such a good year for you. Qualified for the match play for the first time in Blackpool, and then you qualified for Ali Pali, the World Championship, the year after. That must have been such a golden year for yourself.
It's incredible. Like I said, I was so confident, Henry. You know, I really did feel great. Everything was happening. My throw was great, you know, I had great people around me, like I said, keep saying it, but I was sharing with Paul and stuff, and, you know, we were both playing well at the time as well, really, so, you know, we just kind of fed off each other, so, you know, it just kept happening.
When you're in that space, you keep winning things, you keep achieving things, and all the firsts keep rolling in, do you expect it then to keep rolling on?
You'd expect so, yeah, unfortunately it didn't for me, but, you know, your form should carry on really if you dedicate yourself. You know, people say about purple patches, and I guess I did have a purple patch, but you know, nowadays you have to practice, and if you don't, you get found out.
How would you describe the years after the Ali Pali happened, after the match play happened? How would you describe that particular period in time?
Just disappointing, really. It's very hard to talk about sometimes. Like I just wish that it did happen, you know, for me, but it just didn't work out. I did get lazy as well, I'll be honest with you, you know, complacent. You think you've made it, and it is what it is. And I played a lot of golf, which probably wasn't the best thing to do.
We played a lot of golf.
We did play a lot of golf. But, you know, maybe the pressure got to me, I'll be honest. Like, people keep saying to me now I was the OG Littler, you know, the player that was supposed to make it and all this sort of thing. But I wish it did happen, but it didn't, so.
You talk about pressure. Is that because you achieved so much so young? Everybody thinks, right, you're just going to kick on and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And when it begins to not happen, does that add an extra seed of doubt in your mind?
100%, mate. Yeah, 100%. You know, you kind of, you practice harder and then you get into bad habits and things just don't work out. The pressure of darts as well, you know, you don't get paid if you don't win. So you're not being paid as a footballer or as a tennis player. Well, I think tennis is a bit different, but, you know, you've not got guaranteed money. So if I've got a mortgage or if I've got whatever, you know, the pressure gets to you. And especially as a kid, you know, you've got to remember I was only 19. So in 2012, winning the World Youth and supposed to be the next big thing, it wasn't easy.
Then you decided to pack the darts away for a little while. First of all, how difficult a decision was it to make? And did you feel like it was the decision that you had to make at that particular moment in time?
Yeah, it wasn't difficult at all. I'd had enough. You know, I really had. Everything just wasn't happening. I was struggling personally, you know, a few things away from the board and stuff. And I think it's more like your mental health and stuff. I know it's talked about more nowadays, but at the time, I think no one really realises how hard it is on that tour. And I've said to everyone, you know, that the PDC Tour is brutal, you know. It's brutal, you know, not in the sense of people being horrible to you, but the standard is mad. So if you're not playing well, it's very difficult. So I just needed a break.
If you think about how the PDC Tour looks from the outside, everybody thinks it's the golden ticket, and to a lot of people it is. But for a lot of people, especially around that period where, you know, Van Gerwen was starting to kick into this superhuman level, but if you put in 3 hours of prep between 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock, you could have been out by 20 past 12. And you see an outflux of people going for the exit in Barnsley or Crawley or something like that. And it's debilitating. You can feel the disappointment leaving the room. And when you're part of that quite regularly, I think James made a very bold and wise decision to take that step back. And I'm just glad he's here talking with us today.
Let's talk about the decision to come back. What inspired you to say, do you know what, I want to pick these up again and give it a go again?
Well, I'll be honest, just before lockdown, really, I've said before, I think, that I had a message off Jason Tame just to ask if I wanted to play an exhibition in Carrow Road, which is near mine in Norwich. And I went and I played really well, beat Peter Wright at the time, and I think he won the world title just sort of a couple of weeks later. And I got back on the tour just kind of as a fill-in, you know. I think I was high up on the Challenge Tour, and then did okay on there, actually, and then suddenly COVID came. So then I walked away again, you know, but I had kids. So me and my girlfriend, we had 2 kids, and, you know, life gets in the way sometimes. It's not, you know, and I wouldn't wish it, I wouldn't change it ever, you know. But at the moment, I think it's just, I'm kind of enjoying just doing what I'm doing, you know, this, bit of county, bit of Super League, a bit of local league, my friends, you know. I think the enjoyment is the main thing for me at the moment. I've said it so many times before, and it probably gets a little boring, but, you know, as long as I enjoy it, I can still play properly, and maybe in the future I'll go back.
That's going to be the last question. What does the future hold? Is it maybe another go at Q School, maybe one more go at the tour, or are you just going to take this journey wherever you feel like it's naturally going to take you?
I think the last point, yeah, I think I'll just take it sort of like however I feel. But I do want to get back on the tour. But my family come, you know, they come first. And I am a family man. I love my children. I've got 3 wonderful children. And, you know, it's hard for my girlfriend as well. If I'm away and stuff a lot, you know, it's very difficult for her. So, you know, darts is secondary, but I still thoroughly enjoy the game, and I'm glad to be back playing it. In the future, though, I would love, you know, to be back pro, but we'll see.
Any stories about rooming with Nico?
I'm not sure.
We've got to be careful.
I'm sure. And in fairness, he's just such a nice guy. You know, I always remember the first time I met him, just in Crawley in a cafeteria. You know, talking about whether I'd like to sign with Dart Shop TV. I think it was at the time with Will. Just he's been great to me. You know, we always got on, always done everything together. So, you know, credit to him. And he did, you know, as much as it didn't work out, if it did work out, it would have been down to him. And I'm glad that you're still my mate.
Me too. Apart from the day that he got further in Gibraltar than I did, and I played a bit of a practical joke on him, but I can't actually tell you what it was. But it was funny.
Yeah, don't tell him.
Well, on that note, gents, thank you very much for your time. That is it for this edition of the Tungsten Talk here at the MODUS Super Series.